Does Santa eat all those cookies? Or does he have a secret? Written by Joanne Sandlin and illustrated by Jena, Crete, Duncan. At the North Pole, a golden sunbeam danced across the room, filling it with light and gently tickling Santa's face, reminding him it was the day before Christmas. He opened his eyes, threw back the covers, and jumped out of bed. This is the busiest day of the year, the day we load the sleigh with toys and books and candy for all the boys and girls. Was that his favorite apple cinnamon pancakes he smelled? He had a lot to do, and those pancakes would really get him going. He loved anything made with cinnamon and sugar, and it always made him smile. Taking 2 steps at a time, he bounced down to the kitchen. He winked at Mrs. Claus and thanked her with a kiss for making his special breakfast, leaving a spot of sweet syrup right on her nose. Well, time to get busy. Santa had a lot of checking to do to make sure everything was ready for tonight when he delivered presents to boys and girls all over the world. Now, where was the new tablet thingamajig that had all the children's names and the toys they wished for? And his new GPS too. Mrs. Santa and the elves gave them to him last year when he got home from delivering all the toys because they thought it would help him get home faster. They missed him and wondered where he was even though they were tucked in their warm beds. Later that day, Santa had the elves line up as they passed the toys in a long line from one elf to the next, smiling as they passed each one, remembering those long days of sawing and hammering, then gluing and painting with tiny little brushes until each toy looked just right. Santa smiled as they all remembered dancing and singing and all the fun they had in the workshop, and what a happy place it was sewing on tiny buttons and adding a dimple here or a buckle there. As the toys were all moved from the workshop, he loaded the sleigh, and as the elves gave him each toy, Santa typed that toy into his tablet. A doll for Samantha, a blue truck for Justin, cowboy boots for Hector, mittens for Natasha, and on down the list until all the toys were put in the tablet and loaded onto the sleigh. The littlest elf, Sammy, came running with one almost overlooked set of dishes painted with little flowers in a tiny box for Jenny, and handed them to Santa. As he placed the dishes on the sleigh, he smiled at them with a sigh. The workshop is empty. Our work is done for this year. Then Santa asked them to stand in a straight line as he patted each one on the head, telling them what a good job they had done for all their hard work all year long. He said, "It's always important to say thank you." And he didn't forget the excited reindeer all hitched up and ready to pull him across the sparkling night sky. He checked each harness and patted each reindeer on the head as he handed them a treat for their long journey. They liked eating a handful of oats from Santa's warm glove. He was about to climb into his sleigh when Mrs. Claus came running out the door. "Wait, Santa, I almost forgot." She held up a small bag for Santa. "Tuck these special treats in the secret pocket I sewed inside your coat until your first stop, where more cookies from children will be waiting for you." She didn't want him to get hungry, and she knew how he liked cinnamon and sugar, especially at Christmas time. He tucked the cookies safely in the secret pocket and smiled at Mrs. Claus. He gave them a pat, feeling the warmth on his furry gloves. Glancing at his new tablet thingamajig, he knew it was time to go. Lifting one shiny boot and then the other, he pulled the warm blanket over his plump lap and he waved to the little group, with the sleigh lifting into the night as he practiced his ho, ho, ho. Children everywhere were excitedly trying to go to sleep, hearing bedtime stories, singing carols, and dreaming of stockings full of surprises come morning. Across the night sky. Checking the GPS, they flew across the night sky as the stars reminded him of shiny ornaments on the Christmas trees below. He picked up the tablet and tried to imagine it doing all the things he heard. I wonder if I could really catch a quick nap," he pondered as the sleigh sped easily through the night sky. After all, he had been delivering presents all over the world for a very long time. But he was getting older, and sometimes a little nap seemed just right when he was at the North Pole watching the elves work all year. Maybe it was time for one of those cookies Mrs. Claus packed, since it would be a while until his first stop. Carefully unwrapping the surprise, it was another of his favorites, a crisp brown gingerbread cookie. Mrs. Claus sure knew how to make him happy. He smiled, wiping crumbs away with his soft glove. The sleigh touched down and he jumped out. He busied himself as the screen reminded him of each special toy and the name of each child, and putting it in his big bag before wiggling down each chimney. And yes, every toy was just right. Let's see, this house doesn't have a chimney, so I'll use the front door. He wondered what kind of cookies might be left for him. He was getting thirsty, so a sip of milk might taste good too. Placing the toys, he saw there were 2 soft buttery cookies on a dish that had a picture of a little brown kitty licking the milk Santa had left behind. That made him smile and think about Mr. Kitty at home, all snug and warm in his basket by the fire with the elves and Mrs. Santa. Hurrying on, he tucked one of the cookies in his secret pocket and quickly ate one. Yum, that was good. But with Santa, every cookie was good. Maybe that was why he was so chubby, from eating all those cookies. Maybe I should share my cookies the way the children share with me. I will have to think about that, he decided, patting his full tummy. Winking at the North Star, he knew he must keep moving. The reindeer were eager to fly him to the next house where children and empty stockings were waiting. Another stop and more presents to leave for boys and girls. And more cookies left for him. These have frosting that are shaped like stars. One goes in my secret pocket, he thought, and I'll eat just one. One by one, each house is visited and more cookies stuffed tightly in the secret pocket. So many cookies were popped into Santa's mouth, he had to loosen his belt. His tummy was just getting too big. That gave him a wonderful idea. He had a plan for the rest of the cookies left for him. He liked the idea so much he smiled, nodding his head and giving himself a happy ho 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 and a thumbs up. Santa put the sleigh gently down inside the picket fence of a pretty blue house. He decided to use the front door when he noticed the fireplace glowing as he picked up the toys from the sleigh and loaded them into his bag. Opening the door, he thought he heard the scuffling of little feet. Carefully placing the toys around the tree and pushing a candy cane down into stockings with names of Marcy and Ben, he saw a plate with just one cookie. He noticed cookie crumbs all around the plate. He wondered. Were there children out of bed peeking to see if they could get a glimpse of me, bringing their toys, and they ate the cookies and scattered the crumbs? I think I have caught them. Santa turned around quickly. He saw Marcy shushing Ben with her finger, covering her cookie-bulging mouth. As they scampered noisily up the stairs, turning for a peek at Santa, he put his finger to his mouth, letting them know he wouldn't tell. They jumped into their beds, much too wide-eyed to sleep after seeing Santa. The night was fast turning to morning, and he was ready to head home as he yawned a big, sleepy yawn. Was that the North Pole in the distance? Was he near home already? Why? This gadget and the GPS did make my work a little lighter. But he really didn't think delivering toys to good girls and boys was work, because he loved thinking about all those smiles on their faces. But maybe he was a little tired. He would have to do something extra nice for Mrs. Claus and the elves to let them know how much he liked the gifts and how much they helped him. That secret pocket gets an extra special thank you for Mrs. Claus. Sewing that secret pocket was as sweet as the cookies that go inside. Back at the North Pole, as the sleigh touched down on the soft white snow, the sun peeked sleepily over the mountain to greet him with a good morning Santa and welcome home. He ran to the kitchen where Mrs. Claus was warming some hot chocolate. Just as she popped on a marshmallow, he greeted her with a twinkle in his eye to say how glad he was to be home to her and the elves. They were just waking up and rubbing their sleepy eyes. They began dancing around Santa as he twirled Mrs. Claus around the kitchen. After all the joyous greetings, Santa announced to everyone, "Come sit around the fireplace because I have a surprise for you." "For us?" said the elves. "What could it be? The sleigh is empty. What could Santa have for us?" They looked around the room. They didn't see anything. Santa reached into his secret coat pocket and pulled out a cookie for each elf and one for Mrs. Claus, giving one to each of them. He said to all of them, "Because you worked so hard all year long making so many children happy, I am sharing the cookies left by the children with you." Santa joined them because he had saved his favorite cookie to eat with them, a cinnamon and sugar-coated snickerdoodle. "Your tablet and GPS gifts made my night much faster and easier, and I wanted you to know how I appreciated your kind thoughtfulness. So let's have a thank you and sharing party." And they danced around the warm kitchen, feasting on cookies and cocoa until noon on Christmas Day. Sharing with others is always the best gift for any day of the year. There are so many ways to share each day. Can you think of something you can share with someone? Could it be cookies?